to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As you can see, we have some special guests here, so I would like to make an addition to the agenda under new business, if it's appropriate. Have item A be Adams County Sheriff's Department, and then that bumps everything else down. So any objections to adding that? Okay, with that, approval of March 22nd, 2022, regular meeting minutes. Council, you have them in your packet.
I make a motion that we approve March 22nd, 2022 minutes.
I second the motion.
Okay, it's moved and seconded to approve March 22nd, 2022 meeting minutes. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? Motion carried. All right, thank you. We have unfinished business. Item A, another guest that we have is Dan Jess. You're up first.
Oh, I am? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
He's going to present to the council and everyone his information on credit card payment process. So you have the floor.
Well, thank you very much. As Paula said, Council Paula, visitors, Dan Jess from Armada. We're primarily a collection agency, but we process credit cards for quite a few other different small towns, cities, counties, hospital districts, that kind of thing. And I have worked with Denise Need in the past, and we worked with, and we still work with the town of Odessa up there, work with the town of Wilbur, the hospital in Odessa, we process credit cards for. And what's happened with the duration of time, with everybody at home having better internet connections, we found that even smaller communities and rural places, by the way, I grew up in Brewster, Washington, a pretty small town, not much different than this. I live in Post Falls now, but our closest office is in Moses Lake. And we also have offices in Kennewick, Okanagan, Wenatchee, and so we basically provide credit card processing services, and we pretty much take care of everything for you. The cost of the whole processing, and oftentimes that's what it gets down to, is what is the cost of the city? And that answer is nothing, because once you're all set up, and the information I provided, by the way, I have the couple copies of a nice proposal, including the information that the requests they'll need. The processing fees get passed on to the consumer. So say Joe over here wants to make a payment to the city, all he does is goes online, makes a payment, say he makes a $100 payment, so it's a 3% charge. I'm telling you, in the payment processing industry, that's really, really low. I can see that all over the place. So the two transactions take place. I make a payment, pay my city bill, $100. There's also at the same time a $3 payment that gets charged to me. The $100 goes directly to the town, goes into your account. Typically, within 24 to 48 hours, it will enter the bank account that we've set up, your bank account, and so that's where that goes. You might see some of the information I pass on, application fees and processing fees and all that, and you'll see that there's a strike through showing that all of that is waived, and other potential ways that different credit card processing companies do charge. But for many hospitals and cities, counties, what we do is we pass on that cost to the consumer. So it's a pretty simple deal for the most part. There's a basic information sheet that I provide to you. I think I'll get one to you, Paula, here. Once we have that, we basically fill out the application for you, get it back to you for your review, and give you that. So that's, I don't know if Denise gave you a copy of that, Paula, but that just goes through the information that we would need to get you set up. And again, there's no cost for any of that. We fill out all the paperwork and get it all set up, and get it back into your hands. If you choose to go forward, of course, you would just sign that information. We get a tiny, tiny percentage of that. There won't be enough volume that this will be something that we'll make money on, but we like to provide that as a service, and maybe at some point we would even do collections for the city. For example, city of Ritzville, right close, you know, we have some past due accounts, violations, parking, we do sometimes animal control, all those kinds of things. If the citizens don't want to pay their bill, sometimes they go ahead and turn them on over to collections. And if you would, that'd allow me to just say how that works as well. There's an RCW 19.16.500 that allows for a collection fee to be added to the bill. So what happens, say, once again, there's a $100 bill, we're allowed to add up to a 50% collection fee to that. But we would only add 40%, make it a little bit easier to, you know, your citizens. So that $100 bill comes in, we collect $140 for them, returning that $100, the principal, back to the city. And so that works out to like 28.5% of that collection agency fee that we would retain as the collection agency. So if that ever came, and that doesn't have to be part of collection services or credit card processing services, but it is something that's an additional service that you may or may not need. I don't know if you currently use any collection services, or if you just write them off the bad debt, or what do you do? Do you currently use any kind of collection agency to help you out, Paul? Yeah, okay. Yeah, and you'd be well maybe to compare, you know, our service and costs and that kind of thing. We'd be glad to go over any of that with you. I'm glad to answer any questions if y'all have any.
You mentioned, as far as collections, that
Yes, sir.
the person who is owing the amount, that they bear the burden of the collection fee, correct?
That's correct, yes.
The town does not incur that fee.
Right,
No, that's on the person that owes the money.
correct.
If I owed it,
Okay.
they'd charge me the extra $40 plus the 100 that I owe the town.
Right.
For example.
Town gets 100% of the principal back.
Right.
Upon payment in full, by the way, so maybe they owe that $140, and we only get $50 out of them. We're still gonna retain that 28.5% of each payment as it comes in. But whenever they pay that thing in full, the town will be reimbursed, you know, you'll be made whole for that principal that came in. So it makes it, you know, a no-cost issue for you in the town. So,
Okay, so you're saying it's a 3%
for credit card processing,
for
yes.
credit card processing. What other fees are tacked onto that 3% also?
Well, there's none there, you'll see,
This-
on this one piece of paper, I put some of the other charges like tax fees and that kind of thing, and those are all struck out because we're not gonna charge you any of that. We're just gonna take that 3% fee that we charge to the consumer, and that's the only payment.
So that's it. So like our normal bills are $158 and some change. So what, I mean, I'm just trying to.
3% of that's what we
Just
tacked on.
3% basically on top of that is, I'm trying
Right,
to figure out how much.
so they'll be, I just used $100 as a
Right.
for all my small mind to be mad, so they make their payment, they can go, I didn't see a website, but they can make it, they can walk in and make a payment, and you have a swiper at a point of sale, wherever you take payments, or we can set up a portal. I saw you did have a Facebook page. Y'all have a web page? I couldn't find one. Okay, but that's okay, you know, there's ways we could set up a payment page for you. And a lot of towns like, you know, Wilbur, Odessa, Ritzville, they have a little town website. We just put a little link there we provide to whoever takes care of your website, IT, somebody. City of Sprague we do too, by the way. And so we just put that link on there so they go in and say, make a payment, comes up, they fill out the little form, and it says right there, okay, you're making this $100 payment, there's also gonna be a 3% charge, so it's also gonna hit you for a $3 charge, two
Right.
separate transactions.
Right.
And we will never see that money, by the way. It's gonna go through the process into your bank account. We as a company will never see that money or have any way to touch it.
But we could have both options if we decide to go this route. So if we get a site or whatever, set up a
Mhm.
page or whatever, we could have that option, or walk into the city hall and
Right.
swipe our card that way too.
That's right, so at the city hall, you know, at the point of sale, I'm assuming you have a computer set up there. What we do is we produce a link, we make a payment page, we usually put like a logo and some things that identifies you, something that identifies the town. You just click on that, it brings up the little payment form. I'll also give you a little swiper, just plug into a USB port. You swipe that and it pre-populates the credit card number, expiration date. I
Right,
think for the
print shot.
security, you have to put the SIC code off the back, you know, is all for security. But it helps with some data entry errors and that kind of thing, and speeds up the process. So yeah, we'll provide you those for whatever points of sale you have, if there's just one, or if you have a couple.
And will that have the option, like some places can email you a receipt or give you a printed one? Will that have both options?
It
too?
does,
Would you
yeah.
Prefer
yeah.
that?
Even if they go online and make a payment, it'll say, if you'd like a receipt printed, enter your email address here. It'll email the consumer the receipt, or you can even print one out from the office if you prefer. Or have them give you their email address and you can ask it to be emailed. So you're looking out there with another question?
I do.
Yeah.
So are you trying to, is there not gonna be another payment method? So those of us that have always sent a check in, is that not going to be?
No, it'll still be that
It'll
way,
still be that
Darla.
way?
Oh yeah, let's still take
We'll still
that.
have the old school method, we're just trying to possibly introduce the newer, you know, just a different, more options of doing it.
We found out the more options you give for payment, you can just increase the number of payments that you'll get. There's some folks that still like to read a paper book, right? And there's some that we're all on our phones. And I know some of you in here, you're almost as old as me, you're on your phone all the time. So you make these payments on your phones and all that kind of thing, from a tablet, wherever. Or you're on vacation, you know, I don't want to be late on my payment, so they can make it from wherever they're at. Those are some of the nice things about it. Even like this town of Sprague, you know, they're spread out all over. Farmer John over here, he just feels good because he can just make these payments from the tractor if that's what it takes. He doesn't have to go and send something in the mail or go into the office there at City Hall and make it. So yeah, convenience. You still have the old ways. You probably still take cash, right? Yeah.
You bet.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying credit card. How about debit card?
It's the same.
Same thing. Exactly the same. Yeah. Yeah, I just gotta use credit card as the thing there. Yeah. So yeah, no problem.
Okay. I think what Mike was talking about was this interchange.
Right, that's just kind of showing you how you would figure it out, you know, like for example,
But all of this right here, you
that wouldn't
included
even
into
pertain to it, because they
this.
put down here, we recommend for you
So,
to just add this 3% fee that's paid by the consumer. So you could scratch
all of
this.
that
Mhm.
is into this, okay.
Yeah, exactly. This makes the consumer pay for the processing. And we found that to work really well with both cities, counties. We do some courts, and we process for the courts, the defendant pays that processing fee. We get into hospitals and things like that, well, they don't wanna pass those fees on the patient sometimes, and so they end up paying some of those fees for the patient. So that's why we have different options. Any more questions, Mike?
I think you've covered pretty much everything I had to ask.
Okay.
Clearly, for me, I don't know about.
So the math is 158.36 times 3%.
Mhm.
So I would add another $4.75 onto my bill.
Right, you wouldn't even have to add it though, because if you're the consumer,
Right.
you're sitting in your house and making the payment, it'll come up and say, here's my 153, whatever, they type that in, and then the system will say, you'll also be charged another, what would you say, $3.58 or something?
$4.75.
Yeah, the
$5.
other four, yeah, so whatever it was, it'll calculate that out and show them right on the screen.
Okay,
And they'll say, make sure you understand that this will be charged to your account, right? And they say yes, and then I think at that point, then it
oh,
says.
there's a check.
Right, it'll double check, and it'll say, do you want a receipt emailed? If so, enter your email address here now. Some will, some won't. So yeah, it's really nice and self-explanatory, and also Denise could probably attest to the fact that as far as balancing on a regular basis, I recommend balancing often. You go into this online portal, it's really simple to go in, you can see whatever payments made by day, monthly total, summaries, all that. By the way, too, it's also real easy to void or refund if somebody makes a mistake, pays the wrong amount, that kind of thing. And so I'm available, as well as other folks from our office, to help walk anybody through that as far as the accounting side. And you can check your bank balance against what's coming in on those. It does make it really, really easy. And I don't anticipate that it's gonna be big volume or anything, so it's gonna be pretty easy for you, especially initially. Question on there?
I just wanted to comment that the fees don't ever go into the town's bank account. The
Right.
fees go off to Armada and only the actual bill gets put into the town's account.
Right, you're only dealing with the
So,
principal that comes in. So
yeah.
your consumers are dealing with paying for the processing fees, and you just get the money. And like I say, it's typically in your account within 24, 48 hours. You know, over weekends and stuff, you look at a little bit more sometimes.
So is it,
Typical.
so is it like everywhere else, so if, say I overpay and then be like, oh shit, I overpaid?
Yeah.
Is it gonna take me 3 or 4 days to get my money back?
No,
But yet you take it the same right now?
no, you just,
You know what I mean, how that,
oh yeah, that can be
how
a
that
pain.
works, where it's like, oh, well, it'll take you 3 or 4 days to get your money back, but yet it came out of my account as soon as I swiped my card, you know, on
Right.
a certain.
No, you just contact these guys at the city will have the ability to go in and do, if it hasn't processed yet, payments are processed at like at 5:30 every night, you know, in this part of the United States. And so if it's before 5:30, you can go in and do a void and just void the payment. If it's into the next day, after 5:30, the day you do that, then it turns into a refund. So you just go through the refund process and it gets shot back into your bank account, you know, that day, 24
I was just curious, cause I know
That's a good
sometimes
question.
it takes
6 months.
stores, yeah, forever to, you
Yeah, if you're
know,
buying something.
get your money back on your card when it's like, but they took it right now, so.
Yeah,
you know.
exactly. I've actually helped some folks do that. Every once in a while, we have a hospital and make a mistake. People are upset about hospital bills, or they're sick or something, and so they'll put an extra couple of digits away overpay or something, you know, and so we will have to go in and just show them how to void. Once you've done it a time or two, right,
Yeah.
it's pretty simple. And, you know, and it will happen, you're right, it'll happen. But no, nobody's wanting to hang on to your money. Just don't anybody any
It
good.
was just, you know, 'cause I
Yeah.
know it does happen,
It's
so I was
like
just
this
curious on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a question. So, you were mentioning city of Sprague, so I happen to live in Sprague.
Oh, do you?
Yes, and I was talking to one of the city clerks there.
You know Lexi there?
Yeah,
Yeah?
I've worked 4 jobs when we were the same.
Oh, really? She's
Yeah.
a smart little
Grew
guy.
up together.
Yeah?
And the concern came up about, charging the customer when it comes to debit.
Mhm.
I've been reading up a lot on that, and have you guys had any issues with that side of it? Cause I know you can do that on a credit card,
Mhm.
but when it comes to, you know, charging the customer that fee on a debit card, you're getting
Right.
into kind of a black gray area.
Well, I don't think that's been an issue. It hasn't been brought to my attention that that's been an issue. I know that if you're on the other thing where you're doing percentage plus, you know, like sometimes it's like 0.30% plus 25 cents per transaction, that kind of malarkey. And so you're not inside that. We're just doing it, and the site will tell you, when you make this payment, it's gonna also charge your card a 3% fee. Do you want to proceed, basically? And so we do that. So I think that's why that hasn't been an issue. There are some, you know, some grocery stores, for example, or gas stations, they used to make a difference because the processing companies were charging less to process a debit card than a credit card. Reason being is because they take the money right out of their checking account instead of it actually being a loan to the consumer. So that's a good point, but because they're notified that when they make the payment, it's not been an issue that I'm aware of.
They charge 4% too.
Are they at 4%?
Yeah, and
Okay.
I pulled up some Visa, MasterCard, you know,
Oh, yeah.
kind of stuff, because really that's, you know,
Mm-hmm.
legally what matters, and
Right.
I was told that you can only charge what you guys charge, basically. You can't
Mhm.
charge 4% and then keep that other 1%.
I don't have their contract or anything in my memory or anything, but, yeah, I could look at that.
It's like the grocery store here charges 4%.
Yeah, well, I think, I went to like renew my license the other day, you know, the state of Idaho, they charged me like, I don't know, 4% at least to renew my license. I said, what if I give you a debit card? She said, it doesn't matter. So I even asked that when I just got my license renewed, so that's your state, well, I guess you know.
It's, yeah.
Yeah, so if you want the convenience of that, and then who has a check with them, maybe you can hand a check, and I'm sure y'all take checks in cash, so there's a way to get around that. If you don't wanna have to pay the processing fee, we still take cash, you can mail a check, bring a check down. So that hopefully keeps them happy, and if you wanna pay for convenience, that's just something else you're offering to you.
It's just an extra option.
That's right,
More
yeah.
option, basically, we're trying to get out there.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, through COVID, people
Yeah.
loved it during COVID and whatnot like that, because I don't have to come in and mask up and mess around with that, and, yeah, it makes it so convenient. My wife's paid her bill, all of our bills from her phone for so many years now, I can't even imagine doing anything different. I know a lot of them do that. Other questions, maybe?
You did not strike through that one. Is that, but you got waived after it? Is
Yeah,
that-
it says waived, yeah.
So,
I guess the strike didn't print, so, yeah,
so that is struck out,
yeah, it is struck out, yeah.
okay.
It's just a flat 3% and that's it.
Yeah, flat 3%, and that's charged to the consumer only. And so, you as the town, you get your processing done for free, because your customers are paying for the processing. Yeah,
So say we move forward on this, and then I don't wanna say a date or anything, cause I
Oh,
don't know
yeah,
how
sure.
that goes.
no one's
But,
holding you to it.
in the near future or whatever, as far as like the training or whatever, or getting the equipment, how long would that take you guys to come down to the city and?
That piece is really simple. I just make a trip over here and walk you through it. The biggest thing is I got this list of information that I would have Paula or whomever she assigns to fill that out. You know, the city financial information, not financial, but the city information and all that. And because of the good old Patriot Act, somebody will probably have to come up with their driver's license. I think I've asked mayors for like their driver's license before, and sometimes they don't want to do it, and I get that. But, you know, the Patriot Act, President Obama put in place how some of that Patriot Act can be issued. And it's to protect us all from money laundering and that kind of thing, like,
Right.
really, the city sprays to do money laundering, come on, you know, and that kind of thing. So you have to take those extra steps. But once you get that paperwork filled out and you get that back to me, you can just scan it, shoot it back to me. And I have a gal in Wenatchee that'll fill out all these forms. They take a while. She'll spend 2-3 hours just filling out, and she's used to doing it. And we'll have notes on it of where you sign and whatnot. I'll scan those and email them back to Paula, or I'll bring them in, whatever you're most comfortable with. And you just at your leisure, when you're not feeling pressured, you go through those and sign them and make sure you're happy and comfortable with it all.
And then come.
Once that thing is signed and back to us, it may take, it seems like it was about 3 weeks on the last ones we did, because it has to go through,
The whole
you know,
process.
you've got the whole process, the exchange people, and then the issuing bank, and they just have to put all those pieces together. Our financial system's kind of wacky how it works, you know, and a lot of people don't really even understand, I don't completely, but it goes through that process. And it's just to protect the money while it's out there in the system.
Right.
Yeah, but it doesn't take that long. You could be taking credit cards a month from today if you wanted to start on it tomorrow. I would say pretty easily.
Okay.
If it takes longer, it's okay, you know, and whatever, there's no pressure from anybody. It's just a way to offer, like you said, that convenience to your citizens. Questions from anybody?
I can't think of any more myself.
All right.
Well, in all fairness, Columbia Bank is also part of this selection process.
Okay.
So, that information, this information is really good.
Okay.
And, they did, Kelly from Columbia Bank came and visited the office. So we'll get back, with the council for maybe another process or another presentation,
Okay.
so.
Okay, all right. Well, I left some information, some cards. If anybody has questions, don't hesitate. Give me a call, shoot me an email or something. I do appreciate your time, all. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and thank you.
So we'll keep this separate. Okay. Thank you, sir. Item B, the 1994 Chevy pickup was asked to be tabled to get more information. Remember, it was the pickup with the only twice used, I think, snowplow, the 2 or 3 snow blowers. Two new ones for sure, I can't remember. And I think the third one might have been for parts, I'm not quite sure, I can't remember. But anyway, the question was raised about the Blue Book price. Mr. Farrell was wanting $5,000 for the pickup, the snowplow, the snow blowers, the pallet of rock salt or whatever you call it, for $5,000. I looked up low retail price for that same, just the pickup, 1994, 2,600. The average retail, 4,650, and high retail was 7,450. And that is an accumulation of Kelly Blue Book with information from the National Automobile Dealers Association, or the NADA. So that's the added information that you had requested. So he had wanted to know what the council discussed last meeting, and I said they were wanting to know some prices of the Blue Book, not blood, Blue Book.
Has anybody actually ever even looked at this thing
Um,
and checked it out? I know I haven't,
Stephen and Brandon did, they drove it, so.
What is the mileage on it?
It was 120, a little over 120,000.
what was their opinion on it, Paula?
Mainly it was for the snowplow.
So basically, we'd be buying a $5,000 plow.
That's what they are, pretty much. Just shy, 40.
Right, but just for the plow itself is
Yeah.
what I'm getting at.
Right. And it's already mounted. Two new snow blowers.
Right, but what's the city really gonna do with those?
Could've used them yesterday.
Right, but I mean,
No,
but they don't, the city, as far as I know, we don't even have a snow blower at this moment right now, so.
no.
Gone by, I mean, I
Turn around and sell it.
don't think we need 2 of them or 3.
No, turn around and sell them is what I would think. But anyway, that's the added information. So you can go up, he's got it parked at his house, so you could go see, talk with him, whatever. Oh, it had 4 studded tires and 4 summer tires also. Now it's all coming back to me.
And he's not negotiable, or?
5,000 is what he said. We
I
can,
think he'll go down.
we can get, the other pickup that he's got thrown in on the deal for parts for 6,000.
I think the city's got enough parts pickups sitting around. Another one.
Okay, so that's your added information. Got any more questions of, that needs to, or you can, like I said, face to face with him?
Yeah, just from what I'm hearing about it all and the information I've gotten from you and stuff, I think we need to check into it more myself
Okay.
before we just say, oh, let's go buy this. Could be decent, could be a POS, I don't know.
Now, you've got to look at hydraulics, rams, and all that. You got to
I
have
get
seals in good.
2 people drove it, but that doesn't mean anything.
And that's just on the blade.
Okay. So anything else on that part? No? Okay, moving on, new business, we bumped, everything down, so we are now going to, have, Sheriff Wagner with Adams County Sheriff's Department and his new shadow.
He overshadows me.
Oh, overshadows.
He's a lot taller than me. So thank you. I was invited here actually for a couple things, and I just wanted to appreciate the invitation. Some of the things I'm going to talk about, number one, I'm going to introduce you to Deputy Roman Varavoda. Roman comes to us from the Fish and Wildlife Department from the state. He's got 8 years, right? Total law enforcement experience. He knows our county very well. We've worked with him on many things as when he was a Fish and Wildlife guy. His words to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, he wanted to come to Adams County because we're awesome. And is that pretty much it in a nutshell? Yeah, okay. Yeah, sure.
No argument.
But very good guy. He fits in really well with our team. Very good addition to us. He mainly works up here currently. He's working the night shift up here. And Roman, I'm going to give you a little bit more about him, and please take this a little bit seriously. He is Ukrainian, and he has a lot of family over there right now, and they're dealing with a big mess, obviously. And so we want to make sure we support him and his family and those things as well. So, but I appreciate Roman and what he brings to our agency. So, with that being said, I do have some things I need to go over. Thank you very much. Do you have any questions for Roman?
I just want to welcome you to the community.
Oh, thank you very much.
Do you live here, or do you live in Othello? Do you live in Ritzville? Where are you stationed personally out of?
Well, right now I'm in Moses Lake.
Let me ask you a question. Why does that matter to you?
Response time, and we've had, let's bring up our robbery or our theft.
Okay.
And it took your guys forever to come talk to us about that. And talking to Ben, when Ben stops by to ask questions, he's like, I'm gonna have guys stationed here more.
Yeah.
So the response time is gonna be better for you guys.
Okay.
So,
That's why I asked, because of the conversation.
and I'll give you a response to that. Just because I live in Moses Lake doesn't mean that that's where I stay the whole time. During my shifts, I'll swing through land once, twice a night. You know, you guys probably don't see me because I'll come through here at midnight, at 2 in the morning, 3, 4 in the morning, and I'll hit every single street, I'll hit all the alleys. And you guys have probably seen the car drove by with my lights on, with my, not emergency lights, but other lights, through the alleyways. Because I am keeping an eye out. Also been doing a lot of traffic stops in town and around town, writing tickets. Because I want people to know, hey, we have presence over here. If you're gonna steal, go do it somewhere else.
So the reason I asked you to enlighten that is I require my guys to live in Adams County, okay? Across the whole state of Washington, I'm probably one of the only agencies that does that, okay? And the reason is, and he'll test this, right now he currently lives in Moses Lake because he just got hired with us. I give him a year to move here, right? He's aware of that, right? So all my guys have to live here in Adams County, okay? We have 2 districts in Adams County. We have District 1, which is Ritzville, Lynn, Washtuckna, pretty big, vast area, goes all the way up to Spring Lake, all that kind of stuff. We have Othello, obviously, is a District 2 area, covers Hatton, covers Cunningham, covers all of Othello. Bigger population, a lot more resources needed, that kind of thing. Now, we go over this every year with Lynn, we go over this every year with Washtuckna. Response time. If you were to watch your watch, we are fast. And I have the numbers right here in this thing if you'd like to see them. We are very fast in the response for the amount of money. In fact, so fast that my deputies in Othello can reach Lynn just as fast almost as the guys from Ritzville. Proven fact. The other fact, my guys from Othello can reach Washtuckna almost the same amount of time as Ritzville to Washtuckna. Okay? Unfortunately, that's our area. I only have a certain amount of people. I have 18 deputies currently, full staff, currently right now, full staff, for the bodies that I have. That's almost unheard of right now in law enforcement in our area. Every other agency around us is very short-handed. We have been there. Okay? So we're making huge strides in Adams County. We're building an awesome team, people that are really able to respond, trying our best to get everywhere all the time. Now, crime happens, right? We're not going to be there every day. if you've read any of the news over the past 2-3 years, you know that Washington State is a crapshoot when it comes to all the laws that are being changed for how we respond as law enforcement to a variety of things. The juvenile stuff is probably the biggest problem we have right now. Juveniles are doing a lot of crime because there are really no consequences anymore for juveniles, right? If we arrest somebody on a juvenile crime, whether it be vandalism, anything like that, we don't take them to jail. We cannot even talk to them without an attorney present, period. Even if their parents are there, okay? So those are the things we're up against. There's a lot more. No excuses, this is reality in our world right now, okay? But I want to share with you a few things because we always hear those things as law enforcement. You're not here fast enough. You're not here in our town enough. You're not here, I mean, we hear it from everybody, right? The reality is, Roman said exactly, he's working night shift right now. You guys haven't even met him, right? Till tonight, most of you? He just told you he's working night shift and he comes through multiple times a night. Every street in Lynn.
I've seen him.
Okay?
We've seen him.
Right. So crime still happens even though we drive by, right? But statistically, and I'm not going to get into numbers statistics-wise, but I'm going to tell you the calls for service in just District 1, so that's Lynn, Washtuckna, Ritzville to date, okay, and it's up quite a bit, has been 248 calls since January 1st. And that's in the slow district, okay? Out of those, Lynn has 113 calls. So more than half of all the calls in this district are right here in Lynn. Okay? So as we go through those, so out of that 113, the majority on this sheet are closed cases. That means we've caught somebody, we've arrested somebody, somebody's been cited and released, so on and so forth. So there is a lot of arrests and a lot of people being held accountable in this town, okay? When it says CLO, closed out, that means something has happened with that case. We're done with it. Not all cases, but the majority. We've either solved it, you know who did it, we found out who's responsible for it, we've tried to hold them accountable, they've gone through a court system, and unfortunately I can't control that, okay? Whatever the judges do and the prosecutors, that's something we can't control. Okay? So with all those calls, the majority of them are domestic violence, unfortunately. You have thefts, obviously. You have traffic hazards, traffic nuisances, welfare checks, all those kind of things that occur, right? And the list goes on. We got medicals, we got suspicious 911 calls, abandoned vehicles. But every single time a call comes into dispatch, we respond. We rarely have anybody really on call anymore other than sergeants because we're full staff. There is some guys, I think early morning, right? Are you on call once you get off right now? Yeah, for how long, 2 hours? Okay, before a little bit and after a little bit. But it used to be starting at 3 in the afternoon till 7, 8 o'clock at night. Somebody's on call, and then goes the whole shift, then they're on call another 4 hours. We've cut that down quite a bit for both areas, Othello and in Ritzville. If any of you follow our Facebook, you'll see a lot of activity, mainly in our populated areas, right? But if you really look back at it, there's quite a bit going on in this area too. We're arresting people for a lot of things, okay? And arrests are not always bookings. That doesn't mean we're putting everybody in jail that night. Arrest can be a citation. A citation is, I don't know, reckless driving. That's a criminal citation. They won't go to bed, to jail for it. Go to bed. But those are the types of things that we're dealing with in Lynn currently. The theft of the vehicles are not as popular as they are in Othello. We're getting 1 or 2 a day in Othello. Up here, we're having 1 or 2 maybe a month. Thefts are big here, and most of it is theft of like sheet metal, that kind of stuff, the stuff
Propane
that.
tanks,
What's that?
propane tanks.
Yep, propane tanks, all those kind of things, okay, tools, shops being broke into, that's a burglary. So there's a lot of things that are happening, and unfortunately, there's people out there that are doing it. Most of you will say, I know who's doing it, right? We have to know who's doing it. We can't just assume. And that's the hardest part for law enforcement, is we can't just show up and you say, I think he did it, and we just, oh, okay, the old days are gone, okay? A long time ago. So what we have to do is investigate, and that I can promise you is happening. These cases are either being closed out, somebody's being arrested, and sometimes the same people that are doing it here, we're arresting somewhere else, okay? If you follow our Facebook, you do see that. You're seeing us arrest people that are from Lind, Ritzville, over right at the county line, over here in Grant County. That's a big spot that we hit, what, 3 times last month or something like that? Same people over and over, okay? We know who's doing it too, for the most part. We just have to prove it. And that's our job, and that's what makes our job a little bit more difficult, especially in today's world, where it's almost like police have to have their hands off of a lot of things. So in reality, that's the report for Lind. I want you to understand that we do have guys working hours out here, a lot. Washtuckna calls are down for calls for service in Washtuckna. Whether that be because we're having more presence there, I have no idea. But here, quite honestly, you're having an influx of people that you've never seen before. Would you agree to that? Right?
Not in a good way.
Well, and that's, unfortunately, that's statewide, nationwide, quite honestly. I mean, I just went over to Oregon this last week for the beach. It's horrible what's going on. You know, it's not the same environment. I mean, there's people everywhere, wherever they can put up something and sleep in it, right? And unfortunately, that's kind of what's going on in the world today. So I know that some of you might have some questions for the sheriff, and I'm willing to answer those for you. So I'll open up the floor to you for me, and go ahead.
I have noticed that there's been a sheriff's deputy at the junior high.
Yes. Yes.
Can you explain?
I can. So the junior high, and this has always been, so I was a DARE teacher, right? So I know what it's like to be in the schools. I understand the need for them to be in schools.
I have a DARE jacket.
Oh, do you?
Still.
Those are hard to get. You have to be special to get one of them. But anyway, so the DARE stuff was important to me. Schools are important to me. I've asked my guys to be more present at the school district. Few reasons. Kids are going through hell right now, okay? They're treating each other horribly, right? Now that's a nationwide, probably a worldwide issue too, right? We're just in the world of technology now where nobody cares about anybody, seemingly. But the school district called me and said, hey, what can we do? And I said, well, I gotta be honest with you, it costs a lot to have me have somebody in the schools. So for the time being, the school has agreed for off-duty deputies to work in the schools, and they're paying them off-duty. And they pay nothing from me, but they're allowed to use the uniform and the authority. Granted, or for me, because I think it's important. We're trying to work out a program for next year, because this happened just recently. We're trying to work out a program next year that we can get a deputy paid for, kind of like an SRO, but not, because it's expensive to have a deputy. I'm just being honest. It's the car, the uniforms, the person, the benefits, all those kind of things play a big role. So we're trying to work that out with the school district so we're more prevalent there. And so far it's working pretty well. It's kind of like a security for the school district. But it also helps us too, because our guys get to know the kids. Kids learn how to trust us, understand that we're not just gonna bash people's doors in and so on and so forth. Although that can be fun at one time or another. You know. Any other questions?
Yes, I have.
Go ahead.
How do you prioritize your calls?
So emergency, obviously, the type of call, sometimes it's the manner of the way the call comes in, voice-wise. If somebody's panicked or whatever, you know, hard to understand, we can locate them, we're getting there in a hurry. Priority calls, a theft over a robbery is, we're going to the robbery first. Because a theft is usually, I went out to the garage, I'm missing a tool, somebody broke in, whatever. A robbery is, this is happening right now, somebody just held a gun to me, whatever it is, right? So we prioritize based on what it is. That's really the only information we have. When somebody calls, we have to make a judgment call. So that's how it really works. If it's called on 911, that's not always an emergency. I mean, we've had people call 911 and go, somebody just walked across my grass, you know, thanks for calling, but can you call in on emergency line? So we prioritize based on what information we currently have. Any other questions? Yes?
What about the drugs in our area?
Every area, you mean?
Yeah, across the street from where I live,
Okay,
a
and
lot.
probably across the street from where I live, okay? It's everywhere, okay? I'd be lying to you if I said Adams County has no drugs.
And I have to applaud you guys,
Yeah.
because you guys come up there all the
Yeah.
time,
Mhm.
and you even get out, and walk around, and look around, and you can't find anybody, and I really applaud you, because I watched you.
Yeah, so here's the thing with all crime and drug use, whatever, right? Everybody in this room potentially could say, I'm against drugs, right? The reality in the world today is we're legalizing stuff, okay? It started with marijuana, and it's gonna, in Seattle, they're having zones where you can put a needle in your arm and be safe.
That's the
Right.
problem with this, what's going on there.
And across the country and probably the world, right? The reality is drugs are here, they're not going away anytime soon. We're trying our best to hit it as hard as we can, but again, it's the evidence thing, right? We have to have evidence. We can't just assume somebody's has drugs because somebody else saw them do something that was suspicious, right? And drug investigations take a lot of resources and a lot of time. We do them, we're hitting them pretty hard, but there's always gonna be somebody. I put a big drug dealer in jail today. His girlfriend, neighbor, friend, whatever, is gonna sell it for him the next day, right? So you're just trying to constantly get whoever and whenever you can.
So what about the person that's been in prison, even in another state? How far away do those people, especially if it had to do with sex, how far away do they have to be from our schools here?
Okay, so everybody's different. So sex offenders, things like that, they have to register. They're given a level of sex offender, right? So it's 1, 2, and 3, 3 being the worst, 1 being the least amount. And each one carries a different set of rules, right? So if you go to the county, you wanna look those people up, you can, and it'll tell you what level they are and what their restrictions are. But everybody has different restrictions based on the crime or whatever they were involved with. So.
You can look that up, don't you guys have a website you can look that up?
Yeah, you can go on the website, and that's
It's
something
all
that's,
public.
it's all public knowledge, yeah. And we are working towards, hopefully in the next few months, a sheriff's app that you'll be able to click on our sheriff's app, and it'll have everybody that's a sex offender, where they live, all that kind of stuff, what their levels are and their restrictions, so on and so forth, and a bunch of other information that we're gonna put on there. Similar to our Facebook page, but it's more informational. So like if you wanna know who's in jail, you can put on the jail and it'll show their names, that kind of thing. It'll show the weather, you know, because you gotta know the weather, right? Like yesterday. Right? So we are working towards that. We're hoping to have that going here in the next month and a half or so.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions, concerns, issues? You wanna chew out the sheriff? Now's the time. Go ahead. Bring it
What are
on.
you guys doing about the guys on the motorcycles that are terrorizing the school, going down at the dunes over their park where they're not supposed to be?
Okay, so you gotta be a little more,
Well, they're coming from the
Okay.
east side of town and going to the west side.
okay.
And now they're going from the
Are
west
they
side.
kids or are they adults?
We got them all.
Okay. Well, I can tell you if they're caught breaking the law by us, We're gonna handle it.
Stealing shit.
right? We're gonna handle it the best we can. You call it in, we'll get here as soon as we can, try to figure it out.
I did call it in a few weeks ago, and your guy was here pretty darn fast, and everyone
Okay.
says they're not there. He came up there pretty good because the school is tired of the damage,
Yeah,
and the church across the street from us is tired of it, and have asked, keep them out of there because they're doing damage. Look at the arson fire they had at the church.
Yeah.
and the drugs they were doing in there.
Mhm. I can only answer for what we can do. I mean, we can't be everywhere at every time.
So have you found anyone? Have you identified any of them?
Okay,
that
so
are
you're
doing-
asking me a question I don't know the answer to. I have to look into it and get back with you. If you'd like me to do that, I'm more than happy to do that.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
You know how to find me anyways.
Yeah, right. But what, I'm just saying, I mean, I'm more than happy to do that, but when you throw a certain incident that may have happened, I don't know how long ago, when was this?
3 weeks ago,
Okay, 3 weeks ago, I don't have the answer right now. I gotta be honest, I'm not gonna, my guys may have caught them, I don't know. I don't know
Okay.
that.
So that's why your guys' calls are up too for this area, because every time somebody sees a motorcycle go down the alley, they call
Yeah.
them.
So let me ask you this question. This is a question for everybody here. Should you stop calling?
No.
No, please don't. Please don't. You may be frustrated out of your mind, but it'll be that one call that we get here on time, or maybe we're right down the street, maybe we're right there when they catch them. We need you as witnesses and eyes. We're not everywhere, you are, right? You look out your window and you see stuff. We need that information. If it's a car description, get a car description. If it's a license plate, give us a license plate. It may not matter that day, we may not catch them that day, right? But say 2 days down the road, we go over here to the grain elevator and they're inside and their car's parked there. Now we can link them to that, to that, to that. And we put a CRO, CLO, close those cases out because we made an arrest on something totally different. So it's easy to say, oh, they're not doing anything, throw their hands up in the air. But realistically, we're trying to fulfill a circle and get back to where everybody's working together. Our job becomes easier. And then you appreciate us more. There's nothing better for us. Listen, we like catching bad people doing bad things. So if we get here faster, that's great, but we also have to remember, you know, our safety, the situation, all that stuff plays a role in our response. So we're trying, we're doing our best. We're working hard at it.
and the county is big.
County's huge, one of the bigger ones in the state, you guys know that, right? It's big, a lot of open area. And I've heard people say, well, nothing happens out there in the wheat field. There's things happening in the wheat field, okay? You can attest to that, yeah. So, any other questions, concerns, any issues that the sheriff's office can address with you?
how can we legally protect ourselves from some of the stuff that's going on?
Okay, I can't give you legal advice, it's against the law for me.
Well, I mean,
But I can tell you what I would do, okay?
Okay.
Take every precaution you can.
Vigilante justice.
That's not a precaution.
I was gonna say, they told us we couldn't go vigilante,
Yeah,
no.
you don't wanna go and get yourself into trouble, but you have every right to protect yourself. You have every right to protect your family. Well, I don't know how you train cats, but the reality is I'm not gonna take away your rights to protect yourself. But remember, property is not worth protecting sometimes, okay? If it's a piece of car that you know, bumper or whatever, and you go out there and confront the people with a rifle, and you happen to do something, probably not a good idea, right? So you just have to play smart, be safe, and make sure that you're not the target. You know, I tell my wife all the time, I sit with my face towards every door. I don't ever not see a door. And the reason is I'm taking precautions for me and my family. If I go into Walmart, my wife hates me going to Walmart, which is good because I hate going to Walmart. But if I go into Walmart, I am like on high alert, constantly. And it's not like you might not notice it in me because I'm just kind of that way, but I'm constantly scanning, constantly. My wife notices it because we've been together a long time and she knows when I'm uncomfortable, right?
You can't turn it off, right?
It's hard to turn off sometimes. At baseball games, Seattle Mariner games, forget about it. And I love the Mariners, but I can't sit still. I'm constantly going, okay, what's gonna happen? You know, that kind of thing. And some cops are, most cops are similar to that, not probably, I'm a little bit less now that I'm older, but the reality is that I'm constantly looking. I don't want anything to happen to me or my family. And it's the same advice to you guys. Be aware of your surroundings. Know that when you're in the parking lot, somebody could come up behind you. So close your door and look around as you're doing it. So just take those simple steps to protect yourself. Okay?
Are there any classes in this area for anybody, women or whatever, to,
Self-defense?
yeah,
Yeah, that's a good thing, I'm glad you brought that up. Roman here is our defensive tactics instructor, and for years, you know Ned Bernath. Ned Bernath and Amy Knight, she used to work in our jail, would teach a women's class every year that I would have them teach to women. It's very basic, very simple, just basic common sense stuff, but it's a good class. I'm hoping with Roman added that we will get to that. He has done one class for a group of young women down in the Othello area here just recently, and it went very well. So we are looking at those things, but it's really the need and the want. It's free, but it does take time. I mean, you're talking 4 or 5 hours probably, maybe a couple hours. I mean, not all at one time, maybe an hour blocks, but pretty full classes, something to that effect.
Sure, if you guys are interested in that, we can put on a class, but just let the sheriff's office know.
Yeah.
We can do, if there's a lot of people interested, we can a couple different groups, just the groups are not too big, but that is something that I'd like to do, just so, especially where women are more safer. I'm gonna do another class to.
well, there's a lot of women that don't have a big bruiser or a guy to help them, and they need to know how to
And
kick
that,
the
and
daylight
that,
out.
right, and that is something that, in class, you don't have to be a very strong person to defend yourself.
So what I would suggest on that is maybe the city come up with a sign-up sheet and a night that you guys want to do it, get together with us and set it up, and then have a sign-up sheet. And we're not going to charge you anything, but if the city wanted to charge $1 or $2, whatever it is, or just make it free, we can do that. We would just need a location, a time, a date, and get things taken care of. So if you want to sign up at the city, maybe.
Do you need like mats for that class?
We can bring some.
Or do you guys bring
Yeah.
that kind of stuff?
What we normally would do is we'll contact the school and say, hey, can we use your wrestling room?
Right, that's what I was.
Right, or something to that effect. But there's waivers that have to be signed, all that kind of stuff that we would all take care of. But we're more than happy to do that kind of stuff. So, okay, any other questions?
I have a question about, cameras.
Okay?
Okay, if I have a camera
Mhm.
on my house,
Yeah,
where can I legally point it?
Anywhere.
Across the street?
Yep. Yep.
I don't have to do just the front
Nope.
door, I can
Nope.
do it all, okay.
You can point your camera wherever you want. Now, if you're doing peeping Tom stuff and we find out about that, that might be a little bit of an issue. Okay. But speaking of cameras, I'm actually working on a couple things right now. Hopefully, I'm going to be able to get some funding and grant potential of putting cameras in certain areas around the county for traffic coming in and out of the county. Basically from Moses Lake, maybe an entrance here to Lynn, maybe an exit from Lynn. We're not going to tell people necessarily where they are, but they'll be on the roadways and they'll read license plates. Okay, and the reason that we want to do that is to help with the thefts and so on and so forth, because we know where they're coming from mainly. Okay, you guys might think it's Othello, and it is to an extent. Really, it's coming from Moses Lake is our hotspot right now.
Warden.
Well, that's, yeah, Moses Lake Warden area. Most of them are from Moses Lake. They went through Warden, stole their stuff there, and then came here. But anyway, the cameras would read license plates, which would give us a lead at least if, say, you called in and said, hey, I just had my car broke into, stolen at 3 o'clock in the morning. Well, I can go into that camera on my cell phone, or the deputies can, and go, oh, at 3 o'clock in the morning, this vehicle came through that road. We can tie it into something. Maybe it's a stolen vehicle. We can tie it back to Moses Lake, tie it back to so on and so forth. So there's an investigative tool that we're trying to get throughout the county, but it's big money. Yes?
Okay, when we got our 8 cameras installed,
Uh-huh.
one of your officers told us that we had to get, because of where ours were pointed, we had to get our neighbors, because they went to their areas, we had to get their okay.
No. Who is it? I'll tell them that's wrong.
Never mind, it's already done. My neighbors know about it.
Well, even so, you don't need to do that. I mean, you can protect your property the way you want to protect The only thing you can't do is zoom in through a window and try to get people naked. That's realistic, right? Can't watch little kids and things like that.
Those people are registered, just look them up.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, the camera is there to protect your property. We use it as a major tool. We want cameras everywhere.
What about the storage unit?
Absolutely. Cameras on the storage, oh,
There
yes.
is none.
Oh, that I can't control. It's the owner of that, right? But you have a right to film from your house.
Yeah, we have 8 of them, and when Ben stopped by and visited, he gave us some pointers and
Yeah.
stuff on that when he stopped by, because we are still learning how to zoom in
Yeah.
and hit which camera
Yeah.
to. So we probably got you on.
Probably.
Just an FYI.
So he's probably got you too. So
Yeah.
Right?
we have body cameras on all the guys. We're getting them in our cars. We've had them in some of our cars. Cameras are, I mean, look, I'm from the old school law enforcement for the most part, been here 25 years. We never had cameras, and there was guys that were freaking out when cameras, oh, they're gonna put us on camera just to watch us, Big Brother. Listen, my guys love it. We're not afraid of it. You know, we want everything on film. Because now they're just not talking, they know that we're telling the truth as cops, right? Number one, and number two, it's keeping us safe. It's helping big time. Our cases are very rarely going to trial. The only ones that are really going to trial are the serious ones where they have nothing to lose, right? They're just hoping some technicality happens and they get off, but that hasn't been happening. So the cameras are a great thing. Even on ring bells on the front doors,
Yeah. Awesome.
they're amazing. They catch so much. Voices, everything. It's awesome. I recommend everybody have one of those.
Yeah, mine covers every rig I got in front of
Yeah.
my house, plus my neighbors across the street,
Yeah.
their yard.
And you'd be surprised how many times we've solved crimes with those things.
Yeah.
Seriously, it's a huge thing. Did you have a question?
Yes, a lot of people have things snowing out of the yard at night.
Yeah?
You know, what are some of your suggestions for deterring people
So,
without building a fence or a fortress around your house?
yeah, it's a hard one because everybody has different things in their yard, right?
Little tripwires and.
Well, I mean, we've had a lot of people do a lot of things. We've had people throw nails on boards and they've caught people, but they run the risk of liability stuff, right? But here's the thing with that is what might be a treasure to you may not be to me. So my yard, I have rocks and I have bushes. I don't keep anything of value really out in my yard that I'm not okay with somebody hitting, breaking, whatever, right? I can't answer that. How do you protect your own property from people jumping the fence and grabbing something that was on your property?
Illumination at night.
Yeah, but even now, today, cameras are your best bet, but do you think masks were just for COVID? I mean, come on, these people are masking up. You're in a small enough community where you guys know who the players are, right? We've had people literally watch a film of somebody, me included. I watched, the guys came in and go, hey, do you know who this is? I could tell by the way they walked who it was, okay? That's somewhat of PC because I can articulate how I know that. You guys see somebody, I know it's so-and-so because I saw him in that jacket yesterday. It's on your film. Cameras are your best bet. Cameras, lighting's good too, but any more lighting doesn't really matter. I'll be honest, it doesn't. Now, if it comes on, they might go, oh, wait a minute, that's a timer, okay. You know, so it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell. But precautions, cameras are the best.
I think thieves are getting a little bit more and more brazen, getting calls of them coming in to yards, you know, out of the county. Middle of the night, they'll come in, drive around really slow, look at everything, and then leave. Middle of the night, they just don't care. Even if they get confronted, oh, sorry, I'm lost. They'll just take off.
Well, a few years ago, we had people knocking on the doors out on old farmhouses. If somebody answered, it was, oh, hey, I'm here looking for work, wondering if you can help. And then they'll start working in the yard for a few minutes, and all of a sudden everything's missing. Right? They're brazen right now, and that's just how it is in the state, and probably a lot of other states.
And so, you know, with some of the theft stuff, what we're seeing a lot, you know, the sheriff and complaint with this is people leave their cars unlocked. We're seeing that a lot, especially with vehicle prowls. And especially people around here tend to leave guns in the vehicles too, and unfortunately, that's a
drove onto the campus, got out, went to class, and I went hunting after school, right?
Never locked.
We just don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
We can't. And the guns right now, I mean, those are valuable right now, big street value. So, all right, I'm taking up a lot of time, I could be here for hours.
Yeah, that's good.
It is